Hi everybody, welcome to Campfire Discussions with Brandy. Tonight's going to be a little bit different than what I normally talk about. I'm going to be talking about a case that's currently going on, that's currently in the courts. I didn't realize how much my ears pop out with this headphone. Anyways, and it's funny because I came across it and I didn't even realize this case was going on. Now, I think you all have heard last November 21st of 2021 to be exact, was this tragedy that happened in close to Milwaukee. It's called Waukesha, Wisconsin, or Waukesha, or I'm mispronouncing it, I know, so I apologize for that. But this red SUV plowed into a Christmas parade and killed 6 individuals and injured over 60, from what I understand. Now, we all heard about this. We were all outraged about this, but the trial itself, I had no idea was happening until it popped up on my Facebook videos. And from what I noticed, there was not a lot of knowledge about the trial happening. There weren't a lot of viewers the first days. And then as the days went on, there's more and more people watching the lives. Now, it's being broadcast live as the trial's going on each day. And I firmly believe one of the reasons people, hi Dorinda, nice to see you. One of the reasons people are watching this case is because of the sheer mockery that has become of this court. I'm gonna talk about the timeline of what actually happened, and then we'll go into talking about the case. So on November 21st at about 4 p.m., the Waukesha, I know I'm pronouncing it wrong, I apologize, Christmas parade began, with families lining the route starting at the corner of Pleasant and East Main. The Milwaukee Dancing Grannies, which adorable by the way, marching bands and others marched to the cheers of the crowd. About 30 minutes after the parade started, calls came in about something happening near Frame Park. A fight was reported near Hartwell and White Rock. So this is like a domestic violence type fight. They weren't sure exactly what was going on, but I'll talk more about that later because I've learned more. Less than a minute later, prosecutors say Brooks's maroon Ford Escape careened through the parade route. Red Escape, black male, I couldn't stop it, police said over the radio. He's going westbound, blowing his horn. He's running over people. Soon, at Main and Barstow and Main and Gasper, there were calls for ambulances. As the red SUV approached West Main in Wisconsin, the driver running over people, witnesses said it appeared to be zigzagging, avoiding cars, but not people. Near Maine and Wisconsin, the SUV had left the parade route, but the damage was done. 6 people were killed and dozens injured in minutes. The SUV was later found not far away, abandoned in a backyard off Maple. The driver, whom prosecutors say was Brooks, was found a half a mile away knocking on a door. Brooks was charged 2 days later. So we're going to go more in depth into this clearly. But I'd like to say there's a picture I have of a lot of his mug shots. And if Joel can pull it up, I want to show you. Brooks has been it's the one with all of his mug shots. I don't know which number it is, but we'll get there. You're getting a preview of all my pictures. Oh, we might be having some trouble with that. Anyways, I'll talk about it while he looks for it. So Brooks is a well-known criminal, and there's no other way to put it. He's a criminal. He is, from what I've witnessed over the last couple weeks of watching this stuff, he's I'm not qualified to diagnose. There's his stuff. So these are just some of his mugshots. The one on the very right is the one of the day he was arrested for this tragedy this horrible crime he committed on so many people. So he's gotten away a lot. He's gotten off a lot, and it's a really good example of how messed up our system is. This guy should have never been out to do this. And as we talk more about his history, you'll learn of how horrible it is. This is a direct result of DAs that won't prosecute, of trying to make people happy with virtue signaling, not willing to put black men in jail, not willing to prosecute criminals, letting drug crimes go unprosecuted, letting domestics go unprosecuted, and going after the wrong people while letting actual violent criminals free. And we're going to go into detail on what I mean by that. Kelly says, "Hi, sweetie. I'm going to drive and listen to you." Awesome. I hope you enjoy the show, Kelly, and I love you too. So let's talk a little bit more about this. So Darrell Brooks, I was talking about his history. Well, I'm going down here to talk about the history. So he has been in jail a lot. He has an extensive criminal record dating back to 1999. Some of his criminal records include drug problems, domestic problems. In 1999, when he was 17, Brooks was charged with substantial battery with intent to inflict substantial bodily harm, a Class E felony punishable by up to 15 years in prison. After he pleaded guilty, though, Judge Bonnie Gordon sentenced Brooks to 3 years of probation. and just 6 months in the House of Correction. While still on probation, he was convicted of a second offense, possession of THC, and sentenced to 50 days of in-house correction. Almost as soon as he was released, he was convicted of resisting an officer, a Class A misdemeanor punishable by up to 9 months in jail. Despite the THC conviction just months earlier and the fact that he was still on probation for the substantial battery conviction, Judge Raymond Geringer sentenced him to just 20 days. Emboldened by the repeated lack of consequences for his life of crime, the young Brooks was again charged with resisting or obstructing an officer in 2005. This time in Manitowoc County. After his arrest, Court Commissioner Patricia Copa freed him on a $300 signature bond, and Brooks failed to appear for a hearing. The following month, Brooks was in court in Waukesha County on a child support case that dated back to 2004. Brooks had for years refused to pay child support, and while the Waukesha County District Attorney's Office asked for a contempt of court finding and jail time, but the court commissioner Daniel Reich stayed a 120-day jail sentence pending Brooks' payment of support. 2 months later, on May 27, 2021, Brooks was arrested in Union City, Georgia, on yet another domestic violence charge after a man at a motel reported hearing Brooks repeatedly striking a woman. The following day, he was released on yet another signature bond and again fled the state and returned to Wisconsin. That November, just 16 days before this massacre that we're talking about today, Brooks was charged with running over his girlfriend's leg during an argument at a gas station. He faced felony counts of second-degree, recklessly endangering safety, and bail jumping, as well as misdemeanor charges of resisting or obstructing an officer and domestic abuse, battery, and disorderly conduct. He also had a case open from 2020 was a shooting of his nephew. And that case was still open when this thing happened in November, 16 days before the massacre. But despite all that, Assistant District Attorney Carol Manchester recommended just a $1,000 bond. Cash bail, I'm sorry. Court Commissioner Cedric Cornwall agreed, and Brooks posted and was released on November 16th, just 5 days before the killing spree. The same day, he appeared before Waukesha County Court Commissioner David Herring for a child support non-payment. Prosecutors demanded that Brooks be immediately jailed, but Herring issued a stay and released Brooks on his own recognizance, meaning he didn't have to pay a penny to secure his release. 5 days later, following the last in a long line of domestic violence incidents, Brooks allegedly slammed his SUV into the Waukesha Christmas parade, killing 6 and injuring more than 60. This crime is unspeakable and unforgivable, specifically because he should have been in custody. For more than 2 decades, he committed serious crimes with little, if any, consequences ever imposed on him. Instead, the consequences of this leniency were imposed on all of us. And now we're forced to watch them play out in court with his psychotic and crazy ramblings, and I will get into that. So before we go on, we're going to hit a commercial, but please send in your comments on what you think about this. When I found out about his history, and not only his history, but his lack of consequences, the courts consistently letting him out, even when prosecutors are begging to jail him, it makes me think that it's exactly what's happening in our world today, where people are getting off on crimes that they should be facing consequences for, and it is putting us in a path of these kinds of things happening all the time. It's why our violence is up so much. One of the reasons is because there are no consequences anymore. And when you hear what I have to say after commercial, you will realize this guy is so emboldened by this. He has absolutely no remorse, and he has no concept of what he has done. And if he does, he doesn't care. It's just unbelievable. So let's check out one of our sponsors, and then we'll get back to this. I apologize. I'm pretty upset about this because it really hits me in a place that makes me pretty upset. I wish we can do something to change this. But let's check out one of our sponsors. They're a local sign business here in the area, but they go all over, near and far. They're incredible. Their owners are our mayor here in Estacada, Sean, and his wife, Mary Whitney. We adore them. They are incredible people. Not only do they do amazing work that lasts for years and years and years, they take pride in that work. They take pride in our town. And they also are consistently serving this community. So please check this out. Okay, welcome back. Joel said, hi everyone, disgusting. The DA and judges should be held accountable. I agree with that. I think something needs to be done about these DAs that will not prosecute, that will not hold people in jail, that will not make these criminals face consequences. Until they face consequences for these actions, for letting people off like Darrell Brooks, that it's going to continue. They need to face the music. They need to realize that they're part of the reason that these people were killed. And it's heartbreaking. That's weird. There's like a shadow on me that looks like I got something on my nose. Okay, so I'm going to give you some details on where we're at right now in the case and how we got to where we are. And then we're going to look at some pictures and a video and all that stuff. So we know that this happened last November. Darrell Brooks, he is 40 years old. He's been accused of being the driver and faces 77 criminal charges. Brooks is charged with 6 counts of first-degree intentional homicide and 6 counts of committing a hit-and-run causing a death. According to court documents, he also faces 2 charges of felony bail jumping and 67 counts of first-degree recklessly endangering safety and with a dangerous weapon. If convicted of even a single first-degree intentional homicide, a Class A felony, he could face life in prison, according to Wisconsin law. And just as a sidebar, Wisconsin does not have the death penalty. So the most severe consequence he can get is life in prison without any possibility of getting out. This defendant, which is Darrell Brooks, he is asked to represent himself. Waukesha County Circuit Judge, I told you it gets bad, Judge Jennifer Darrow granted Brooks' request to waive his right to an attorney last Wednesday, which was not this last Wednesday, but the Wednesday before. So Darrow, the judge, said she believed Brooks was mentally competent enough to represent himself. Darrell also maintained that the start of the trial would not be moved back because of this, because everybody is assuming that he's pulling a lot of these antics to stall because he knows he's guilty. He knows he's getting in trouble. He knows he's going to have to face consequences at this point. But to me, I think he just I think he's taking joy in it. And I think it's disgusting. Before being taken off the case, Brooks's now former attorney, Jeremy Perry, said he had explained the charges over 25 different meetings with Brooks because this has been going on for almost a year. And he just fired these lawyers a week before the trial started, which means he has like 10 months of work that these lawyers have done at his fingertips. He's got their notes. He's got everything that they did at his fingertips to use for this trial. However, Brooks said he does not understand the charges, but is aware of them. So he's had all this time to go over this stuff. He claims that he doesn't understand the charges, but he's aware of them. Additionally, public defenders won't be allowed to represent Brooks on a standby should he change his mind during the trial, court documents said. And if you're following this, like I have been, he was warned and he was urged not to do this at least 10 times. The judge told him specifically in very intense detail what this means when you decide to represent yourself, what it means that you're not going to be able to use it as an excuse later that you don't know what you're doing. You cannot use it to stall. You cannot use it in later on down the line to claim you didn't have accurate representation. He is making this choice knowing very well what it means. He made this choice at the urging to not do it, and now he's trying to use it, just so you know. But he was notified, he was informed, he is very well aware of what it means. Ah, dang it, I talked too much. I lost my notes. Here we go. So he had initially pleaded not guilty by mental disease or defect in June, but withdrew his plea in early September. Brooks also faces domestic abuse charges, and we'll get to that in a minute. New domestic abuse charges. We'll get to that in a minute. Waukesha Police Chief Daniel Thompson said last year that the police had missed an opportunity to stop Brooks shortly before he crashed his SUV into parade goers. So this is where we get to the domestic abuse. The suspect prior to the incident was involved in a domestic disturbance, which was minutes prior, Thompson told reporters last November, and the suspect left the scene just prior to our arrival at that domestic disturbance. Brooks, so what this domestic disturbance was, he met up with, so the couple weeks beforehand, he was arrested for running over his girlfriend's leg and punching her in the face. Well, he decided he wanted to meet up with her, and so he met up with her outside of her women's shelter, okay, or down the road from the women's shelter she was staying at. He met up with her, and then he ends up having another domestic violence confrontation with her, and they called the police. Her and her two friends called the police, and he ran. And then minutes later, he drove into the parade goers. So he has been charged with 2 counts of domestic abuse, a Class A misdemeanor, which comes with a maximum fine of $10,000 and no more than 9 months in prison. According to court documents, the trial is set to run until October 28th. This trial that he's in right now. So I want to back up a little bit. Did you hear that? He was charged before, but left out on $1,000 cash bail for punching this girl in the face, running over her leg. He gets out, and then he decides a couple weeks later he wants to meet up with her. Then he has another domestic violence incident confrontation with her where he punches her or slaps her or something like that. I'm not sure the details of that. And they say that the maximum that they will do for someone in a domestic abuse case, if found guilty, is $10,000 and no more than 9 months in prison. Something is very messed up about that. Something is very wrong with that. Okay? So, yeah, he punched and ran over her. Sorry, I'm reading my notes a little bit. So we're going to talk about this court case and step away from the notes for a minute. Oh, I have a bunch of comments that I missed. If Joel, could you send those to me so I can read them real quick? I don't want to miss everybody's comments. Joel's going to send me those comments I've missed because on my screen I can only see part of it and I don't want to read it wrong. So he decided he's going to represent himself. Okay? From the start, Darrell Brooks has been radical and completely out of control. To start, he has no concept of being having decorum or any kind of respect in any way, shape, or form. So anytime he's in the court, he's talking over the judge. He's interrupting people. He's saying nasty crap under his breath. He is refusing to cooperate. At certain points before they started bringing in and doing the trial, this is like the pre-trial trial when they're talking about getting jurors and they're picking their jury and all the, housekeeping stuff beforehand. while they're doing that, he's in the court. Obviously, he has the right to be. He's in his jail outfit at this time. By the way, every step of the way, he's been told he has the right to wear a suit. He has the right to wear different clothes. He doesn't have to dress like that. He's also wearing a mask. He's also shaved his head and his facial hair. Okay? So during this pretrial time, as they're picking their jurors, he's just out of control. There's pictures I have of him. There's a point in court where he takes off his shirt. Okay? There's points in court where he's sitting at the table with a jacket over his head. There was several moments when the judge had to put him in a different courtroom with headphones so that he could hear and see what was going on, but she could have him completely muted so he could not interrupt anymore because he was causing such a disturbance that nobody could get through anything. So she had him in the separate courtroom, and he'd have to hold up a sign that said objection if he objected. And I mean, there were moments when he was holding up the sign, just holding it all day during this time. So I'm going to read a couple of your comments real quick. And Joel, there is a picture in there somewhere where he's holding up that objection sign if you find it. Anyways, yeah, that's his posture as well. He has no respect. He won't stand for the jury. He doesn't do any of that. He has absolutely no respect. There you go. There's the objection signs. He always has the headphones. She's able to mute him. At this point, when she had him in a different courtroom, she had it to where he was muted, and that way he could only speak when she unmuted him and gave him permission. It's really pathetic that he has no concept of respect that she had to do that. Now, while the witnesses are coming in, she has not done that. When the trial actually started, she's kept him in the courtroom, but he has been just as disrespectful and just as outrageous, and we'll get into that. But I wanted to read your comments real quick. There is a special place in hell for people like that. I agree. Vote. That is what we can do. Vote against the Democrats and the neocon warmongers. We will never have peace if we don't vote for change in our state and federal elections. It's going to be our children sent off to fight a world war. It's going to be our children living in violence here at home. Get fired up, be angry, and everybody vote. Vote for peace. I agree with that 100%. We are at a crossroads right now, you guys. It is getting so ridiculous. And this is one of the reasons I want to talk about this case, was because it is a prime example of what we are causing ourselves by voting for the wrong people, by not giving consequences to actions, by not doing what's right. We are so focused, well, not we, but certain people are so focused on not looking racist or not looking biased or the diversity, equity, inclusion bullshit that they're not paying attention to the fact that they're letting criminals go free and they're causing an insane chaos in our entire country. We have to make a change. Another comment was the DA and judges should be held accountable. Yes, 100%. Sapat says, remember, we live in potato brain Biden liberal policy. Yep. So before I go on more about the court case, I want you guys to see this video. This video is a kind of a little bit of what happened today. So today is day 9 in trial. And we're still doing the prosecution's case. Darrell has not had his part yet. It is the prosecution's case where he gets to do cross-examination. And believe me, it's insane, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But I want to show you this video real quick. It's only a couple minutes long, and it gives you a good glimpse of what happened today, what kind of chaos he caused today.
Other news now, the Darrell Brooks trial went off the rails this morning after a nearly hour-long rant from the defendant. 9 days into this trial, Brooks says he never had time to prepare. Fox 6's Brett Lemoyne live.
He had plenty of time.
Rant today, Brett.
Yeah, Ben, this rant came right after testimony from one of Milwaukee's dancing grannies. 4 of her friends were killed when prosecutors say Darrell Brooks drove his SUV through Waukesha's parade.
Where's the injured party? Who's making the claim?
This was his rant, where she had to take the
Brooks
jury
tried
out.
Again, unsuccessfully to get the case dismissed. Brooks said he can't get a fair trial in Waukesha County. Judge Jennifer Doro ended Brooks's 50-minute speech to allow the prosecution to respond. District Attorney Sue Opper reminded the court Brooks, quote, knowingly and willingly insisted on representing himself. Brooks fired his public defenders the week before the trial started. Doro wrapped it all up, saying none of Brooks's arguments were based in law or fact. The state so far has called 6 witnesses today. Laura Thien winced watching a video of her friends being hit. She says the impact was so strong it pushed 2 of her friends up onto the sidewalk. 4 died and 3 were hurt.
I looked on the road,
This poor
and
lady.
all I seen were bodies. I thought I was in a war.
Now, Brooks yesterday filed 13 subpoenas to try and get people to come to the courthouse and testify for his defense. It should be noted that the majority of those people that he subpoenaed were actually on the state's witness list as well. Reporting live
So he
in
wants them to
Waukesha,
go
Brett
through this
Lemoyne,
again.
Fox 6 News.
Brett, that was like a 50-minute rant from Brooks. Does that go back to this claim that he's made before that he is a sovereign citizen? He's made that kind of an argument before?
Yeah, Judge Jennifer Doro said so much, Ben, in court today. Brooks keeps insisting that the court doesn't have jurisdiction over this case. He's saying that the state is an entity and therefore can't bring charges. He keeps asking all of the witnesses if anyone has a claim against him. And this all ties back to that sovereign citizen defense, which admittedly, Ben, so far has been the cornerstone from what we can tell of his defense.
Yeah, that argument says the laws of this country don't apply because you're a sovereign citizen. The federal government has like 1,000% batting percentage over people.
Yeah, you're never going to win with that.
Before, oftentimes they're tax evaders. We don't often see this in murder trials. All right, Brett, what does this do with the projected timeline of the trial, with what's happened in the last couple of days here?
Yeah, so obviously, Ben, we lost an hour today, but we started almost a half hour early, so that's kind of moot. So the judge said, well, we're going to go until about 6 o'clock this evening. And this is all on top. Don't forget, yesterday we had severe weather that cut yesterday's testimony in half. We only had a half day yesterday. So going forward now is still kind of a mystery. The state hopes to wrap its case by Monday, maybe Tuesday, and then Brooks will present his defense.
Yeah, and a big question mark what that will look like. All right, Brett, appreciate it. Thanks. Stay.
So, as you heard, he's trying to use this sovereign citizen defense. One of the things, and from what I've witnessed, there's 3 things that his defense is going to be centered around. One is he's claiming to be a sovereign citizen, therefore the laws and rules of this country do not apply to him. 2, he's going to try to prove that the intent was not to harm anyone. And 3, he's trying to show that gosh darn it, I lost it. Sovereign citizen, intent, and something else, and I totally forgot what it was. But he hasn't shown his defense yet. He's asking every witness if they know the plaintiff, which we all know in a criminal case there is no plaintiff. He's asked them if they have seen any claims against him, if they have a claim against him. He's asking them also if they're made any money off of this. He even asked the mother of one of the children that was severely injured. No, it wasn't the mother. It was the coach, the baseball coach. He had 2 children that were injured, and one of his baseball kids, Jackson Sparks, passed away from his injuries. And Darrell had the audacity to ask this gentleman if he had filed a medical claim. Well, he said, yeah, I filed a medical claim with Victims Assistance, and they paid the medical bills for my children. And Darrell goes on to say, well, is it safe to say, or is it fair to say? He says, is it fair to say every freaking second? Is it fair to say that you made money off of this? And the guy took such offense. He's like, no, I had my medical bills paid. And he goes, is it fair to say that you wouldn't have paid the bill if you didn't have the bills paid? And the guy had the perfect answer. He goes, I generally pay my bills. I would have paid it no matter what. This guy is trying to make claims that they're in this for the money somehow, that they're there because they got paid medical bills. It's insane. sociopathic, narcissistic tendencies that this guy has. It's out of this world. He's also every time they take a break and they come back. So the beginning of the morning, every time they take a 10-minute break and come back, every time they take lunch and come back, every single time they come back, right as the jury is coming in, because he has a plan, mind you, he raises the question of jurisdiction because of the sovereign citizen stuff. He has said the state has yet to prove jurisdiction on this. The state has yet to prove that they have a right to even charge me, and I want to dismiss this case. Christy, Jay, yes, it is sickening. Christy, we're discussing Darrell Brooks. He is the gentleman who, the crazy psycho that ran his red SUV into a Christmas parade last year in Wisconsin, and he killed 6 people and injured 60 of them. He is currently representing himself in trial right now, and he is insane. I urge all of you to look this up and watch some of these videos. This is one of the moments when he was acting pathetic. He also tried to delay the start of the trial in the pretrial times by claiming he had COVID. They did the test. They found the results of the test. Once they found the results of the test, he refused to release those results of the test because he was trying to delay the trial. Luckily, this judge is doing a very good job. Judge Darrow, I have to give her props. He's clearly trying to delay the trial. He's trying to cause some sort of mistrial. He's trying to cause some way that he can appeal. And she is giving him just enough rope, but not allowing him to go further. He's getting away with a lot. Oh, this picture is important. So see this smug little asshole look on his face? You want to know what was happening there? He refuses to take off his mask, even though he has no COVID, nothing. He refuses to take off his mask because he knows by shaving his head, by shaving his face, and by wearing a mask, it's less likely these witnesses can identify him. Well, when the prosecution has a witness up there that says that they saw the driver of the SUV, they have to ask him to remove his mask so that this witness can identify him. Well, anytime he is told to remove his mask so they can identify him, he gives this exact look. He takes the mask off for about 2 seconds, gives a smug little piece of crap stare glare, and then he puts the mask back on. I am just so disgusted by this guy. I can't even get over the antics he is playing in this courtroom and the fact that he feels he has the right. Not only that, he is re-victimizing these victims. He is putting them through this trauma all over again. He is trying to use every way he can to get out of this. He, the sovereign citizen, at first he tried to claim he was mentally incapable, that he was lost his mind. Another thing he's trying to do is pretend that he's emotional now. Somebody in the jail is giving him some sort of advice, because not only does he have all the notes from all the work those lawyers did, so he's just reading from these notes, but he's also adding his own crap. So he's objecting to everything the state does. Every question they ask, he's objecting. 90% of the time, he's saying hearsay, which it doesn't make sense. And the judge is constantly saying, I refer you to such and such rules so you can read what hearsay actually means, so you can stop making crazy objections. Then he's, somebody taught him that he has a right to say grounds. So part of the crazy antics today, the 50 almost hour-long spiel that he gave where the judge had to put the jury out of the room and she had to just let him talk. For 50 minutes he talked. He's been saying grounds every time somebody else objects. So say he says something, the state objects and says that's not relevant, objection, and the judge sustains it 95% of the time. She sustains it. Sometimes she overrules it for them. But 95% of the time, they're completely right. He is asking questions that are not relevant or aren't what he should be asking. So whenever they object, he yells grounds before they can even get out their grounds of the objection. And then he's demanding that the judge answer why she sustained it. And he calls it substained, by the way. So he'll go grounds. They'll say objection, relevance, and he'll say grounds. And then the judge will say sustained. And he goes, grounds, judge. Are you going to state the grounds, judge? Grounds. And she most of the time will not. And during this little spiel he had, this 50-minute rant that he had, by the way, he rants every single day. But this rant where she took the jury out and she just let him talk, he was claiming all kinds of things. And she goes and she says, by the way, Mr. Brooks. Oh, I don't identify as Mr. Brooks. I don't know who that is. Blah, 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 blah. He constantly says it. Every time they say his name, oh, I don't identify as Mr. Brooks. I don't know who that is. I'm a third-party representative of my client. Well, she says, when you ask me for grounds, you're asking me to give a judgment, a legal analysis of what your questions. By me not answering you on the grounds, I'm actually helping you. Every time you demand my grounds, if I answer it, I'm giving the jury legal conclusions to this question. I'm giving them my legal conclusion to this question. I'm helping them find you guilty. And he still, after this rant, after they explained a lot to him, after he's been told time and time again, this is not proper, you need to file it this way, or this is how you do it, this is what you need to do, he's claiming that it's not fair, he didn't have enough time to prepare, or it's a biased court. He even told the judge today that she was committing treason. He told the judge today that she needs to recuse herself because she's clearly biased against him, when this judge has been more than fair. If I was her, I would have left and made someone else do the job. I mean, I don't even know how these witnesses, these victims, are not climbing over the stand and wringing his little neck. I don't know how they're getting through it. Some comments are, Christy said, he is a psychopath, what a douche canoe. Yeah, 100%. Jay said he's doing this to get off on being too mentally incompetent to stand trial. You would think that, but they've already gone through that. They already gave him the analysis. It's already been on the record that he is completely mentally competent. It's on the record that these are stall tactics. Christy said this is why you don't defend yourself. 100%. 100%. Joel said they want to see him pay. That's how. What gets me, too, is these poor victims having to be cross-examined by this idiot. I mean, it's just insanity. So we're going to go to another commercial, and we're going to come back. I know we're supposed to end at 7:45, but we're clearly going over that. I have more to say. So this next commercial is Hitch and Post Pizza. Miss Valerie, she's amazing. Her pizza's the best ever. Even if you're not in our town, but you're close by or, far away, it doesn't matter. If you ever are in Estacada, you have to try her pizza. It's amazing. Check out her video. So, I wanted to talk, Christy said that's very true. They need closure and he needs the death penalty, firing squad, or hanging. Unfortunately, Wisconsin doesn't have the death penalty, which is infuriating. And with this guy getting off so much, I'm just praying and hoping that he gets 10 life sentences with 500 years added on. I just hope that there's absolutely no chance of him getting out. Dan O'Donnell is a writer, and he's a conservative writer, and he wrote, as long as we continue to tolerate the people who kept the Waukesha Parade massacre suspect out of jail, we deserve to have to watch the mockery Brooks is making of the justice system. It took just 7 minutes for Waukesha Parade massacre suspect Darrell Brooks, 7 minutes, Darrell Brooks Jr., to become so disruptive during jury selection in his murder trial that he had to be removed from the courtroom, but even that felt like 7 minutes too long. While he does have the right to serve as his own attorney, no one should have to listen to him, as Judge Jennifer Darrow put it, intentionally making a mockery of these proceedings. Brooks' incoherent grandstanding is especially infuriating because it serves as an in-your-face reminder of the insanity that led to this moment that failed to protect us from him. And then I went on and told you all of his history, right? Well, we want to look away Okay, this is Dan O'Donnell still. He says, we want to look away, to ignore his hysterics and the mockery he is making of the justice system. But the tragic reality is that he has been making a mockery of the justice system for years while we ignored it. We allowed this to happen, and now, at the very least, we should endure his painful spectacle, because as long as we allow the people who continually set Darrell Brooks Jr. free to serve in the justice system in any capacity whatsoever, we should feel the consequences of our actions, because Darrell Brooks Jr. never did. He never has felt consequences of his actions, and that's 100% correct. It's insanity. It's just awful. There's a couple moments I wanted to talk about that I'm reminded of while watching this trial. Your comments said, or death by 1,000 cuts, or by Ford escape the exact same way his victims went. I like that idea. Preferably with his own vehicle, bamboo torture. So you guys are coming up with ways to kill this guy, which is funny. I want to go through each picture real quick because we kind of had a spastic view of them. So if Joel could do that for me, I'm going to explain each picture real quick and then tell you a little bit more about the trial that's been going on. So this is the time he took his shirt off. This is in the pre-trial time before we had the jury selected. This is in the process of selecting the jury. This was him trying to claim Black Lives Matter and claim that he's being they're biased against him because he's a black man. This is one of the times where it's pre-trial. They're getting ready to start the trial. I think this was the day before they started with witnesses and everything. And they were doing pre-trial stuff, so the jury was selected, and he refused to stand up fully for the jury. And he was arguing with the judge. This is the time that he got put in that separate courtroom in pre-trial, and he was holding up the objection sign for like a couple hours. This is one of the moments that he was asked to remove his mask so that the victim could identify him, and he took off the mask for about 2.5 seconds. This is the day he was arrested. So on the left is right before impact of the band members. That was the beginning of his rampage. And the right is his mugshot. Looks to me like he was on some sort of meth, although he does have a history of that, and I'll talk about that in a minute. This is one of the times before he shaved in the pre-trial, like the very beginning. This is pre-trial when they were doing jury selection, and he started yelling at the judge. This was him claiming to be emotional and upset, and also claiming how unfair everything was again. These are his mugshots that we know of. The one on the very right is the day of the parade. The one, I believe so the fourth one over with he still has dreads and like a blue teal shirt. That's when he shot his nephew. The one in the orange shirt to the right of that is when couple weeks before the massacre, when he ran over his girlfriend's leg and punched her in the face. These are the 6 victims that died, and I'm going to say their names, and then we're going to take a moment a few seconds of silence for them. Tamara Durand, Willem Hospel, Jane Kolich, Leanna Owen, Virginia Sorensen, and Jackson Sparks. And we're going to take just a moment of silence for these guys. Okay. This is Judge Jennifer Darrow. I know some people are upset with her because she's allowing certain things, but I firmly believe she's doing a dang good job considering what she has to deal with, and I think she's giving him just enough that he cannot claim biasness, even though he just did today, and he can't get away with it again. She's trying everything she can. I know she is. Okay, so those are all the pictures. I missed one of those comments, something above Kelly's. Kelly says, I'm sorry I missed a lot. I'm at the hospital to visit Jacqueline. She had surgery yesterday. Please pray for her, and this man is a puke. Yes, we will pray for her. I'm so sorry, and let me know if she needs anything. Christy says she's giving him enough to hang himself. I firmly believe that too. I think she's giving him just enough. And I wanted to talk about a few things. So, Jackson Sparks, he was in the hospital for 2 days before he passed. His injuries were insane. I mean, brain damage, bleeding in his brain, tons of damage to his body, to the extent of when the medical examiner today was discussing her examination of him, because there were 2 different medical examiners. One did 3 of them and the other did 3 of them, and both of them testified today. The first one to testify was the one that examined Virginia, and Jackson and one of the other ladies. And when she was talking about Jackson and his injuries and how severe they were, she actually got emotional and was crying about it. I mean, this is somebody who does this for a living, and she was emotional. It's heartbreaking. And then when it came time for Darrell Brooks, or I don't identify as Darrell Brooks, to cross-examine her, he pretended to get emotional. He pretended to cry, although there were no tears. And he played this whole bad acting job of getting emotional and I'm so sorry that I'm taking an extra minute to question her. And then he goes on to question her like in this zombie-like, like really quiet and really somber and pretending to be upset, even though up till this moment he has had no remorse. He's talked to victims, he's talked to victims' parents, and he has had no remorse. He has no problem questioning them and hurting them and reliving this. He's taking joy in it, I really firmly believe. But at this moment, this is when he had this whole I'm emotional all of a sudden. He even asked for a break after that. It was crazy. Then they talked to the coach of Jackson. They talked to the Granny's lady today, who talked about her friends that were hit and hurt and killed. That was really hard to watch. They also talked to a gentleman. He was a big guy, and he was on yesterday. And he did a really good job with the cross-examination. He didn't let Darrell get away with anything. He was talking about, he witnessed Jane Kulich, or however you pronounce her name. She's one of the ones that passed away. He witnessed the SUV hitting her, and where she went on top of his hood. And then he braked really hard to knock her off the hood and then ran over her. And this gentleman was talking about that experience. And what you want to know what Darrell had to say on cross-examination. He goes, so you say you saw brake lights. Is it fair to say that brake lights means that the driver attempted to stop? And this gentleman said, of course, it took a while to get that. He asked the question in a very weird way. They kept objecting. He finally got the question the way he wanted it to, because he was trying not to sound so harsh. And the gentleman said, actually, it was clear that the driver braked to knock her off the hood and then continued to run over her to move on to hit more people. The medical examiner today for that lady discussed that the reason that she died was not only because of how severe the injuries were, but the injuries were so severe because he ran over her, not just from hitting her, but because of running over her. That's how she died. There was another one I wanted to talk about, and I think I just lost it. So, he's constantly asking the witnesses if they saw brake lights, if they heard a horn honking, if the SUV, how can they call it a car and not an SUV? I mean, he's trying to trip these witnesses up, but they're doing a really good job. It's just insane. And I'm reading that comment. Everyone is talking about him, giving him press. The best thing would be to make his name and face disappear from the press and the world to forget about him, but still have to learn from it and fix the problems. The problem with that is we can't learn from this. We want to give, and I will continue to speak about the victims and their families, but we have to give this notice. We have to talk about him, and we have to talk about this if anything's going to change. Our policy has always been, don't give the criminal the time of day. Don't give him publicity. But right now, we need this to be out there. We need people to realize what's going on. We need people to see this. And it's not to make him famous. It's to make sure that these policies change. So, yes, it sucks that we're talking about him and he's getting attention, but we need to make sure that attention is in the right way, that we are getting the attention on what he's done and how he's done it, how he's gotten away with it, and why he's gotten away with it, and how we can change that. We can make a difference if we vote the right way, if we push for the right policies, and the only way to do that, unfortunately, is to talk about this. So I've gone over, but I have one more commercial for you guys, and then we're going to have our closing time, and that's it. So check out Slappy Dwarfs. I will tell you what, I cannot wait for that game to come out. I wish it was out right now, because with the anger I have towards this situation, I would love to be slapping some dwarves. I'll tell you what, it's a great anger management game, so keep an eye out for that. It's going to be awesome. Joel said he doesn't need to know we're talking about him. Solitary. I agree with that. Jay said Democrats caused this. If he stayed in prison after the first crime, these people would still be alive. Exactly why I'm talking about this. It's exactly why I'm talking about this. He should have been in prison all along. The domestic violence thing, the domestic abuse thing being so low needs to change. The fact that he was in jail for drugs and got out on $300, that needs to change. He should not be getting out. He should not have been let out. And when he ran over his girlfriend and punched her in the face, even if they didn't let him out on that $1,000 cash bail, which was bogus and absolutely ridiculous, and even the DA says was a mistake, even if he was sentenced, his maximum would have been 9 months. Who's to say this wouldn't have happened again? I mean, it is insanity. We have to make a change, you guys. And I'm sorry that I've talked so much about it. I could go on for 3 more hours. There is so much about this case that needs to be paid attention to. I urge you guys to check it out and to look at what's going on. If I have to suffer, other people should suffer too. He is just making a complete mockery, and it's because of the policies that have got him there. We have to do something different. Slappy Dwarf's planned release date is in January. Yes, I can't wait. I cannot wait. Anyways, thank you guys for listening to my ranting. I hope that you all take this to heart and start paying attention to what you're voting for. Start paying attention to the people that make those decisions. It sucks, I know. Nobody wants to get political, but guess what? We all have to at this point. We all have to get involved. We all have to stop these policies. And I have the most gullible and open hearts you'll ever meet. Okay? A lot of me wants to give people 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 100 chances. But we can't do that when it comes to criminals. We cannot let criminals get away with these things, because look what happens. We have to be firm. I'm learning that even with disciplining my daughter. We have to be firm. There have to be consequences, and we have to get political at this point because we have sat back for far too long. We have allowed far too many people to be in power that shouldn't. We have to make a change. So if you're local, I'm going to plug a couple things here. If you're local, one thing is our mayor. He is an amazing man. He serves this community. He loves this community. He was here for us during the fires. He's been there for us in secret, undercover. He serves this community every day. He loves this community, and he has somebody running against him who I don't know much about her, but I do know she doesn't have any experience. So please, 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 if you are local, if you haven't met Mayor Drinkwine, make intention to meet him and talk to him before you make your decision. Look at what he's done. Look at all the things he has done. And don't blame him for the mistakes of certain council members on council that have no concept of serving this community. Okay? And I'm saying this as a personal...
princess knows.
Yeah, that's right. I'm saying this from my personal own opinion, nothing else that I do. I urge you, please get to know him, get to know what he believes, what he wants to do for Estacada before you make that decision. Also,
as a princess, I am always underestimated.
Do your research on those running for our council. It's of utmost importance. The people on the council are either there to support and work with the mayor and support our community and do what the community wants, or they're there for other reasons. I urge you to look into them and make sure you're voting for the right ones. There's 3 positions up this time. There are 5 people running for those 3 positions, and I can tell you I know 2 of them that are perfect for it. If you know me personally and you want to find out, I would be happy to tell you. But I don't know much about 2 of them. But I do know one of them needs to go. He's been on the council a while, and he has been out making outbursts and grandstanding for a while now. It's time that he moves on.
Onward!
There's a new guy that was appointed to our council that's doing a bang-up job. Mike is amazing. You know, I hope that people vote to keep him in. And Miss Rhonda is running, and she is an incredible lady who believes in this community and loves this community.
How exciting!
As for more stuff, look into everybody, all the positions. Don't just write in the incumbent, okay? Because the incumbent's not always the best. In the case of our mayor, he is the best choice. But in other cases, like county commission, I urge you to look into who those people are. There's an awesome gentleman running for Clackamas County Commission, Ben West. Please, please, please put him in. Get Sonia Fisher out, because Sonia Fisher was the one that was pushing for homeless camp shelter thing in our homeless hotel in our town. I'm not going to continue to push politics, but I will say, you know, do your research. Really, really, really make your vote count. Don't just put something on a thing. And Ben West will be here on Backwoods Brothers soon. I believe in a couple weeks. I could be wrong, but keep an eye out. Ben West will be a special guest on Backwoods Brothers very soon, and you can learn about him before you vote. He's an awesome guy, very much. So, again, do your research. It's very important that you know who you're voting for and you know what their beliefs are and what they will do. Also, Christine Drazen, get that vote out there for her. She's the only one that is running that is absolutely going to make a change in Oregon that we desperately need. I will stop. Oh, Joanna Harbor's on the ballot too. Vote for her. I will stop plugging people now. Thank you guys for listening to me. I appreciate all of you. Sapat says don't judge the person before meeting him first, like the mayor. Meanwhile, Estacada has 0 resources to help those homeless, such a smart move. Not agreed. Thank you guys for listening. I urge you to look into this case, pay attention to what's going on there, do your research, have a good week, be kind to each other, love one another, but also criminals need to have consequences. It's number 1 point of the show today. Consequences need to be had. And I'll see you next week. Be good to everybody, except
Good
criminals. Good night, guys.
Goodbye, everybody!
Goodbye, everybody.